Welcome back to another Character Corner. It's your host, Kriss Dpalm here. We're back to do the Character Corner. Again, it's one of my favorite shows to do on this. Even though it's a lot of work, we go in here, we start reading about and talking about some of your favorite comic book characters out there, or some of your less known or obscure comic book characters out there. Sometimes we time these for when we have big movies or big events coming out involving some of these characters. And right now we decided to get a jump on Spider-Man Homecoming, and we're going to talk about Peter Parker. It's going to be a multi-parter. At least, I'm thinking at least 3 parts.
Easy 3.
At least 3, because we only did the first 150 issues on Amazing Spider-Man on this one. So, yeah. But before we get further into this, I know you guys know our policy. We have a 5-star review. Thanks, shout out to Ron and Karen from the Black Guy Tips on this policy. If you give us a 5-star review on the Character Corner feed, we will read it on air. And we do have a new one that came out since the last time we did a show. Dpalm, take it away.
All right, from Kieran and Mitch. This podcast is great. Comic book characters may be more popular than ever, but most of them have been around for 50 plus years. And I've been wanting forever a way to know what are the best runs on any character and what's the core of the character. And that's exactly what you get with the Character Corner, guided by 2 great personalities, Kriss and Dpalm. They're not only true longtime fans of the characters, but they offer insightful critiques and are hilarious to boot. If you want to read some great comics and don't know where to start, this is the podcast for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We love these. We love the reviews, and again, your support is how we keep doing all the awesome stuff we're doing. Like, seriously.
Black Canary is also, I think, 50 or 70 years old this week.
Yeah, I just see that. I saw that. Yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about that. So, yeah, man, these characters are old or out there, and like I said, I love talking about. I love reading about them. Like, literally, if you listen to the Insanity Check, you heard me complain about traffic. And literally today, there was some accident or something going on. I try to work a 10-hour day today, so I left work at like 6. I literally had to push the show back to get started. Because for some reason, there were too many accidents, and I didn't get home for like an hour and 40 minutes to 2 hours, all right? Hopped out of the car, got something to eat real quick, and then came down here to start recording, all right? The only way I'm able to do that, if I enjoy talking about some of this shit. And
True.
yeah, man, talking about comic book characters and the fact that I can actually read some of these at work because I can get the Comixology and I can get to Marvel Unlimited, which makes this a hell of a lot easier. DC. Like, seriously, going back and doing a character like Spider-Man and having Marvel Unlimited. I know we sound like Marvel fanboys and like we work for Marvel with how much we tout how good Marvel Unlimited is, but it just is. Like, DC needs one of these because it allows me to go back and I can literally go back and read. Hey, you know what? I read a lot of Spider-Man stuff growing up. I know a lot about Spider-Man. You know what I never did before? I never really read Amazing Fantasy 15.
Okay. So how you want to do this?
We can just start with
do the overview of Peter Parker.
Yeah, let's do the overview of Peter Parker. Yeah. And why not just Peter Parker, but because I think especially with Spider-Man Homecoming come out, I think it's important to state why not just Peter Parker matters, but why teenage Peter Parker and why having him as a teenage hero in 1962 was important.
Okay, so like you said, Batman, Spider-Man's first appearance was Amazing Fantasy 15, 1952, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
And in 1962, the only teenage heroes were sidekicks.
Yes.
The only teenage heroes were sidekicks, and particularly at Marvel, because that's one of the best things about Marvel is they've always had their heroes have very much feet of clay. They're very human, living in a very grounded world, but no one had taken that step and said, hey, particularly at Marvel, like there weren't even sidekicks at Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
At Marvel, it was, well, what if we applied these same sensibilities of real life problems, real life stresses, and put them on a child? Wouldn't that be something that our teen audience, who we know we have and cultivate and love, would flock to? And you were right, because to this day, comic books, the world over, if Batman and Superman comes out and Spider-Man doesn't come out with a movie, more merchandise is sold with Spider-Man on it than Batman Superman. He's the most popular comic book character in the world because every kid can see themselves under that mask.
And that's the important piece right there. Because when I went back and read, cause here's the thing, I talk all the time. I'm one of those people that's not an apologist for the older shit. Because I don't read it most times. I'm just like, oh God, I can't do this writing. And it definitely takes some getting used to. And as we've done these, I've gotten more and more used to some of the older writing on some of the ways some things were done. Like, some of it's just plain out corny and silly at this point.
It happens.
Right. It's fine. But when I went back and read all of the Spider-Man stuff, and all the stuff we've read is literally old shit. Most of it, I think, all of it was before my time, before I was born, right? As I'm reading this stuff, I'm struck by, like, no wonder this shit became popular. They're literally writing the lives of teenagers. Because Peter is not just a teen, he's a teen with real problems. He has real issues he has to deal with. He's raised by Aunt May's elderly aunt. So it's a different family dynamic already there. So you already get people who, like, again, think about it. You not just have a hero now, you have somebody who's not born with two parents. Who was born with two parents, but doesn't have two parents, not being raised by two parents. Being raised by his elderly aunt and uncle. And his uncle dies. So basically now his aunt is now raising him as a single mother. How many kids have a similar situation? Maybe they weren't raised by an elderly aunt. Maybe they're raised by, a grandmother. They're raised by one parent. So you basically have...
Not even that. It just reinforces that there is no normal.
Exactly. One of the things that is a recurring theme throughout the beginning of the Amazing Spider-Man, actually just throughout most of Spider-Man, even up through what we're doing, is struggling for money. Like, he's always struggling for money to help pay for bills and to help his aunt and still juggle school. Like you said, what makes Peter Parker important is it challenges what's normal. And
what's even better is it gives a face. It makes what not normal. Because you're right, there are the money struggles that you've seen played out in other different comic books, particularly Marvel. Like Captain America was an artist at one point drawing Captain America comics, oddly enough. But it was more than just the money struggles, particularly with teenage Peter. He was always obsessed with how he appeared. He looked down. He was very self-deprecating.
Oh, always.
This wasn't I'm Superman. This was like the unsure, unconfident, nerdy kid in school. He's not a farm boy who puts glasses on and no one can tell can fly. He's not a millionaire. He's not a princess raised on an island full of Amazonian women.
No,
he's a kid who's too smart and no one likes.
Yeah, and has all his problems. He internalizes everything. Like, there's so many times as you're reading this, you find out like something going like Aunt May will be in the hospital on her deathbed, and Peter is so engrossed in trying to find money that he's ignoring his friends, and his friends go, "Oh, Peter's being an asshole. Look at this asshole. He's too good for us." And you're like, you're literally going, "No, it's not that he's too good for you. He's literally so worried. He's trying to hurry him to get his work done so he can go spend time with his aunt because he thinks his aunt's gonna die." Like, these are the things that you read, and you're like, "Yeah, I bet you there's no. Of course, Peter ties into that." And so, like, that's why to me, I think it's important that you. And to jump forward a little bit to, again, what they're doing with Spider-Man Homecoming, I know everybody's like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, another Spider-Man movie. No. You've never had the proper Peter Parker. You've never had.
Ever.
I saw a image of the cast, and they all look like teens. I mean, they all look like they belong in high school. Now, granted, I know some of them are older than that.
Breakfast Club with spandex.
Right, but Tom Holland himself is like 19, maybe he's 20 at this point. So, but they all look like they belong there. They look. Apparently, he went and visited a hospital ward, and he dressed up as Spider-Man. And apparently, he was a big hit with the kid because they were like, he's like my age. Like, that matters. Like, that connection with Spider-Man and Peter Parker matters. And And yeah, eventually we can sit there, and I think that's why we did our Miles character corner. But Miles is important because Peter Parker eventually grows up, and to me, it's like that idea with Batman and Robin, like with Batman, a Batman always needs a Robin. Like to me, like there always needs to be a teenage Spider-Man, like because that's the core of the character. So if Peter Parker grows up and it's still Spider-Man, you still need to replace that somewhere with a teenage Spider-Man that has. Doesn't have to be the same problems because, again, Miles' problems are different from what Peter's problems were.
Right.
But, like, it's beyond just, well, Miles is black and Peter is white. Well, Miles has
They're both super relatable.
Right. Miles has two parents. And like, Peter had his aunt and that was it. Like, there's a lot of differences here between them, but they both still have the struggle there that come with basically teenage problems. And so, I think that seeing that Peter, and seeing Peter Parker there, and and getting that it matters, and it really does. And so, yeah. So,
and it's really interesting because, like you said, it's important. I think, particularly in retrospect, like Peter being in high school. Peter being a kid in Amazing 2015. And let's just finish the overview really quickly. Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider. He gained this proportionate strength, speed, and skills of a spider. He's fast. He's agile. He's a spider sense that warns him of danger. He is probably the best person in the Marvel Universe. He has gone through a ton of shit without mentally breaking, which in my mind is a superpower. Because reading this stuff, it's like, wait a second.
Well, you know what it is? Because we did the depressing life of Matt Murdock, and I go, damn, that's depressing. But then I read early Peter Parker stuff, and I'm like, okay, so imagine the depressing life of Matt Murdock, but as a teenager.
Like, yeah, you're just a kid.
Yeah, like so yeah, shave off about 15 years, and then take that on. And then you tell me, because it goes back to the thing too that I thought was interesting when I was reading up about Peter, the decision to create Peter and make him a teenager and things like that. By not being a sidekick, Peter Parker has nobody there to train him.
He learns by getting his ass kicked a lot.
Right, and so like that's also important. Which and then again, we just post that with Miles, who learned how to fight by YouTube videos, right? Watching YouTube videos of Peter Parker fighting. Go figure. Yeah. So, we're going to cover a lot of, I forgot how much depressing things happened to him in this first 150 issues.
It's a lot. And we only read the first 149. And is this the first time you've read Amazing Fantasy 15 actually?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was the only time I actually read Amazing Fantasy 15.
I would like to throw its hat in the ring as the greatest single issue origin story ever.
I from what I've read so far, I can't go wrong with that one.
You learn so much about the character in not very many pages. They tell you the whole Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
And you even get the quote that's later retroactively attributed to Uncle Ben, but originally appeared in the text box at the very last page of the book.
And it's hard to miss. It's easy to miss.
Great possibility. And it goes back to what you're talking about. Well, what you said, he had no crutch, no one to teach him the way. He had to learn through screwing up. And his first lesson is the biggest and the one that always stuck with him. Yeah.
Gets his uncle killed. Well, he doesn't it's not that he gets his uncle killed, but again, you guys all know the story. He had a chance to stop this robber. He said it wasn't his problem, his business. Later on, that same robber ends up killing Uncle Ben, And, like you said, he finds out. And here's the other thing, too, you got to understand about Peter Parker and him being a kid. He puts a lot of stuff on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So it's a recurring thing that Peter Parker takes a blame for people that die around him or people who get sick around him. And they continually throw it at this kid, and then they basically force him to survive it all, and to get stronger from it. And yeah, so that final panel is and a lean and slight figure slowly fades into the gathering darkness, aware at last that in this world, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And so a legend is born, and a new name is added to the roster of those who make the world a fantasy and the most exciting realm of all. So, and again, so not only is this a great, because when we did Iron Fist, it spans over a couple issues. Like, it's not, you don't get everything into one issue. Here you get everything, how he became Spider-Man, what motivated him to stay as Spider-Man. All that stuff is there in this Amazing Fantasy 15. But it also ends on just like a heartbreaking note. It ends with Peter, walking away, in his Spider-Man costume, crying, and like the last words you get from like the words I read before were just the text boxes, but the words from actual Peter, the last words from Peter in this issue are, "My fault, all my fault. If only I had stopped him when I could have, but I didn't. And now Uncle Ben is dead." That's a rough way to end the fucking issue. Like, I mean, that's a hell of an intro.
Hero. Here's your hero, guys.
Right. We built him up and we broke him in the first issue. Come back for Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Right. Come back for Amazing Spider-Man number 1. And then they literally throw him into the gauntlet. And we talked. Yeah. we talked about this when we did the Rogue War, so I won't go too much into it. But like, you literally, almost every single main villain in Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery gets basically tossed in to you in those first 20 issues, I think.
Yeah. It's just a sprint. It's hey, what if every character we created is an absolute fucking hit?
I mean, honestly, because I think the first...
just hypothetically, what if you and I were sitting in a room and we're going to make up characters for 20 straight issues, brand new characters, brand new universe, and every one of them lasted for at least 6 years?
Yeah, because the first issue gets you Chameleon, second issue gets you Vulture, Doc Ock is in issue 3, Sandman is in issue 4. I mean, look at this. I can't remember who's in 5, but I know Lizard is 6.
No one's in 5. Lizard's in 6. Living Brain's in 8. Electro's in 9. Big Man and the Enforcers are in 10.
Like, look, for Electro, did you say Electro at 9? Yeah, so first 10's there. You didn't even get Green Goblin, right? You don't get Green Goblin until 14, right? You don't get Kraven until 15. Like, that's a sprint. That is just number 1 also introduces J. Jonah Jameson, who if I didn't like J. Jonah before, when you go back and you read these first 150 of the Amazing Spider-Man, I want to go back and edit our Rogue War. I think we did mention him, but he definitely needs to be counted as a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
Good God, he's a fucking dick.
He's such a dick.
Like, just from...
I think I'd forgotten early how bad... Because it was kind of... Like you said, it's kind of dated writing, so it was kind of more blatant on just what an asshole he was.
But it is to the part of when you read the early part... And I guess it played more... It affected me more when I read it this time, because I'm like... he's a kid. And of course, Jonah doesn't know that. But I'm reading this going, and you see everything else going on in Peter's life, and you're just like, but he's a kid. Why are you doing this? Like J. Jonah just blatantly makes things up. He's turning the public against Peter. Like, there are times when Peter saves his life, and J. Jonah basically goes, "Oh, you were in on it." He's just like, what? What? It's just, oh man, he's such a dick. Such a dick. In this. So I think the other thing too that I liked about the first, I guess it was the first 4 issues. When's the issue that where he, in the beginning, where he meets the Fantastic. He breaks into the Fantastic Four. He breaks into the Baxter Building.
Let's see.
I want to say that might be 2. Because basically what happens is...
2's with Vulture, so maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that is the one. Basically, the beginning of this is, you again, it goes back to what I was saying, the struggles of Peter Parker being this young teen. When Uncle Ben dies, Uncle Ben is the one that was bringing in money, and Aunt May doesn't have any money, so Peter's trying to find a way, to bring in some money and help his aunt. So
that was why he was going to the wrestling thing in the first place.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually issue 1.
Yeah.
It's issue 1 is when he comes in and he decides that the way he's going to make some money is he's going to convince the Fantastic Four to bring him on as a superhero, and then they'll pay him as a superhero, and they basically tell him it's like, but we don't get paid. Everything we make is to keep the lights on in the Baxter Building, so that's not going to work. You have Jay Jonah here, like writing all this stuff. It's like, we cannot allow the masked menace to take the law into his own hands. He's a bad influence on our youngsters. Children may try to imitate his fantastic feats. Think about what would happen if they make a hero out of this lawless, inhuman monster. We must not permit it. I think the Spider-Man must be outlawed. There is no place for such a dangerous creature in our fair city. The youth of this nation must learn to respect real heroes, men such as my son, John Jameson, the test pilot, not selfish freaks such as Spider-Man, a masked menace who refuses to even let us know his true identity. Yep.
It's so funny reading this stuff again. It's so crisp and so well done. And you're right, like that right there is just really well done. You know what I love? And I guess rereading this stuff, I hadn't really realized how many things that Stan and Steve established early continue today. Issues 18 and 19 is the very first time that he quits. He quits. He stops being Spider-Man. Like there's that cover, the Spider-Man No More cover.
Mm-hmm.
That happens eventually.
Right.
But for the very first time, it's issues 18 and 19. His life's going to shit because he's Spider-Man. He got the old school Parker luck. Betty Brant won't talk to him. He sees Ned Leeds with her for the first time. Medicine for Aunt May is running low. Jameson is completely demolishing him in the press, and Batman walks away.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing this.
we literally just did our button. Forgive us if we ever confuse that. We literally just did an hour on Batman the button. So yeah, it's just, it's bound to happen.
The only 2 people who have any faith in Spider-Man at the end of this are the Human Torch and Flash Thompson, both of whom Spider-Man hates.
Right.
Flash even dresses up in the store-bought Spidey costume, gets the shit kicked out of him, and it takes a pep talk from Aunt May to get him back on the saddle. But I loved it because we've seen, like, it's made its way into almost every Spider-Man continuity. It was the main focal point of Spider-Man 2 to the point where he's losing his powers. He has so little confidence, which, whatever.
Right.
But it's amazing. It's so well done, and it's him using the people around him to become stronger to continue fighting. It was an early book. Like I said, 18, 19, I think. It was just insanely well done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing. The interesting thing that Peter has to deal with, because again, he is being not only just a teenage superhero, but he now has a teenage superhero with an alter ego, right? And an interesting thing they did here, because I kept trying to look and see when certain people found out, and I realized in that first 150 issues, nobody really knows. I mean, some of his villains find out, but nobody else knows he's Spider-Man. Nobody else knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, this young kid, or this young high school student, and eventually this young college student. Nobody knows. Like you said, it puts him on an island and makes him so isolated from anybody else, and that's why he goes through these moments of doubt and struggles in his life, because you see his personal life struggle, suffer because of this. You have, you mentioned Flash Thompson. The interesting thing about Flash Thompson is he eventually becomes a good friend of Peter, but he starts off with he doesn't really like Peter, but he likes Spider-Man, right? You mentioned Betty Brant. She doesn't care much for Spider-Man, but she likes Peter Parker, right? And so you have Peter having to deal with this idea of people not liking the complete him. They like a part of him, but they don't like whole him. And he struggles with, well, maybe I can just tell them, but then they'll say something like, oh, that's Spider-Man minutes. And he's like, well, if I tell them who I really am, they won't like me, you know? Or does a person only like me because they know I'm a Spider-Man? So he spends his entire time on an island going through all this stuff. And sometimes, I mean, again, the writing is very, 60s and 70s. But you can see in how they write him something like he gets frustrated, he gets angry. There are moments in here where, like at one point later on, I don't know, we'll talk about it later on in some of the runs, but there's a moment where Aunt May gets sick. Oh, I know what it is. It's the, I have it. It's the If This Be My Destiny part. It's 31 through 33. And that's when Aunt May gets sick because earlier on he had given a transfusion of blood, and she gets infected with the radioactive by his radioactive blood. So she's sick and she's in the hospital, and he's struggling to get this medicine, or to get the cure, which has also been taken by Doctor Octopus, and get it to Kirk Connors so he can work it. And you see him going through all this stuff and working so hard, and his friends don't even know that Aunt May's in the hospital.
Right.
And so he gets into he not only feels so alone and not being able to tell people about Peter Parker, but he gets so beat himself up so much, he gets so focused on what he has to do, he doesn't even let people in on the Peter Parker side. And because of that, he's not even making real friends. He's just, like the first day when later on he graduates from high school, he gets a science he gets a science scholarship to get into college. Other people there, and I think that's the first issue of 31 through 33. If This Be My Destiny, it's the first appearance of Gwen Stacy, first appearance of Harry Osborn. It's issue 31, and they're trying to introduce these people, and Peter's just so dead focused on going to school, doing what he got to do in his classes, and going home to deal with his aunt. And everybody's like, this guy's an asshole. People will call his name, doesn't hear him.
I want to thank you for doing this, because every time we talk about this story, you have to talk about the last issue.
Which one, 33?
I always when he lists the whole thing. But I always overlook the beginning. You're right. This is where we get Harry and Gwen for the very first time.
Oh yeah. And they literally they don't interact. And that's what struck me so much. I'm reading this, like you said, 33 is literally a masterpiece. Like, don't get me wrong. Like 30, like there are a lot of these.
It's Steve Ditko going absolutely insane.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. Like, and this is probably some of the best written older stuff that we've ever talked about. Like when Dpalm said we were stopping at 150, I was like, oh man, okay, that's some old stuff, man. I don't know. We might lose some people, but I'm telling you guys, this is some good shit. Like
great shit.
It's some good stuff. But yeah, it's the beginning of 31. You get all these characters introduced that are important later on, obviously. But Peter's he's so focused on saving his aunt, rightfully so, that he's blowing these people off, and people are just like, oh, these guys are assholes. This guy's who the fuck is this guy? But it also turns into one of those things where with women that, we talk about Peter Parker and he's a nerd and he struggles with women, but they also do this thing where Peter always has the hottest women hanging off his arms.
It's so funny. There's a Johnny and Peter moment like later on. I don't think we read it in this run, but at one point he says, Parker, look, you've always got all the girls around you. You've got a loving aunt. Like, what are you talking about? You've got all the luck in the world. And you can see Peter fighting the urge not to beat him to death.
Right. It's like, starts up with Liz Allen. And then there's Betty Bryan, who works at the Daily Bugle.
Daily Bugle.
And then obviously you get Gwen, and then we get MJ in these runs here. So in the first 150 issues, there's four women. All right, 4, and not just like some regular. They're like the women that everybody else wants.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Obviously, winning, man.
Yeah, loses Betty to Ned. Obviously, we know we'll get into what happens with Gwen. But and I didn't notice before, but apparently he's almost dating Gwen and MJ at the same time. Like I always go ahead.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I think there's a misconception. You always think that it was Gwen first, then MJ. But the truth of the matter is, he kind of starts dating MJ, and it kind of finds her too shallow, and then moves on to Gwen Stacy, and then obviously we come back to MJ.
Love of his life. Let's just do that right now.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to talk about some other books and we get into this because I could talk about the Gwen Stacy thing for days.
Right.
But there's an epilogue to the. Oh, I don't know. Let's skip ahead. Sorry, I'm about to tell Gwen Stacy stories.
Okay. Oh yeah, we'll get here.
Let's talk about Spider-Man 50.
Spider-Man.
Because we talked about the run up to it and everything that's happened and kind of all the hits that Lee and them hit out of the park introducing this. Spider-Man, the run is 50-52, Spider-Man No More. And it introduces the Kingpin to the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, when you go through the list of, like, people introducing Bat-book or in Spider books, God, I did it again. It's insane.
Yeah.
Particularly this first 150.
Yeah.
And all hits, the Kangaroo showed up in 81. That can't all be winners. But I think that it's really interesting because in those first 150 issues, they don't just handle, like I said, like you've pointed out repeatedly, the balance between Peter and Spider-Man is so real because, yes, Norman Osborn's the Green Goblin, but Harry Osborn's on drugs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Nothing but applause.
Yeah, I mean they literally
for 1970 something, 60 something.
Yeah. I mean, they do a great job of grounding everything. Like the going back before 50, that's when you realize like because again you were introduced to the Goblin in 14, but 39 and 40 is when they reveal Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin, and on the last page of 39, and he basically uses some gas to neutralize Spider-Man's spider sense, so we can follow him home. Finds out that it's really this kid named Peter Parker, and then Peter realizes that this is Norman Osborn, the father of his good friend Harry. And obviously Peter defeats him, uses the gas to, and the gas. Norman gets as the Green Goblin gets hit by the gas, and he gets amnesia, and he forgets that he's Green Goblin. Peter, trying to help out his friend and helping his friend's dad, takes the costume off of Norman Osborn, and just has him says that the Green Goblin attacked Norman Osborn. That'll come back later on, so I had to get that in there because it also ties into later on Harry being on drugs, because again Norman Osborn's kind of a dick. Not even kind of a dick. He is a dick to his own son. He gets so focused on his company, he's not a father to his son.
You're right.
So
you're right. It's watching the Osborn family break down is one of the most, and it's just like they did with the introduction of Harry and Gwen. They let it be subtle. They don't tell you immediately how it's happening, but you're just watching it. And you feel almost like Peter because you see this kid who's got all this power, all this strength, all this ability, and he can't do anything for his friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. That's some other great... that's the thing about this first 150 is we're going to breeze by a lot of stuff.
Right.
Not just because of just the need that we have to, time-wise. There's some things like we get the first appearance of the Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
The first, did you get the annual?
No, I didn't read that one.
The first appearance of the Sinister Six. The way it's laid out is it's 2 pages. Each fight's 2 pages. Peter fights the bad guy on one page. On the subsequent page, it's him standing victorious, and he does that through 6 bad guys, and it's so well done. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, they should still write comics like this. It's not an old person, but it's true.
Yeah.
The introduction of Rhino also plays into the J. Jonah Jameson's son thing. And it's the beginning of Gwen and Peter and the first appearance of Mary Jane.
Yes. Which, again, I think her first cameo, which they do in such a cheap way. It's like, oh man, what is it? It's like, her first appearance is like 20 something, but it's like a cameo and they don't show her full face. Yeah, it's 25 and they don't show her full face. Like the way it's drawn, you're like, come on, really? And then you get the first.
Her first mention's in 15.
Yeah, her first mention, because his aunt keeps trying to set him up.
Aunt Anna doing the work.
Right, he's trying to set Peter up with this good wholesome girl. And then you get the first full appearance in 42, and it's just the classic appearance where she's like, Peter Parker, I'd like you to meet my niece. You mean that's Mary Jane? Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot.
I know it's corny, I know it's cheesy, but I need every incarnation of Mary Jane to say something like that.
I mean, but it's just like you got to figure out a way to get it in there, right?
Why wouldn't you? Why? What's the argument against it? I'll wait.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
there's one.
Yeah, no. So they introduced that in there. Let's see. The thing about Spider-Man No More is in 50 he gives up being Spider-Man, doesn't go to help.
Yeah.
But then there's a night watch, and so because he's not out, he throws away the costume. You have the scene with J. Jonah framing it in the office. Peter's like, hey, he's living his life. He has time for his friends now. He has time to do things like this. He's coming home one day, and there's a night watchman who's getting attacked on a rooftop. He decides to go up there and help. Something about the night watchman, the way he looked at him, just something about him just struck a nerve with him, and he realized that the night watchman reminded him of his uncle, and he realizes that he is Peter Parker. Like him and Pete, like and I think this is a good thing that they struggle. They have Peter struggle with all the time, is this idea of Peter Parker versus being the Spider-Man, but the reality is that they're one and the same.
And it's those moments when Lee gets to tell us that it really lands. Like one of my favorite stories of all time is Captain Stacy in 88 and 90. Captain Stacy, George Stacy, was Gwen Stacy's dad, father of Peter Parker's girlfriend, sometimes allied to the Spider. It's not Dennis Leary on a goddamn rooftop. It's George Stacy was trying to save a kid from falling debris during a Spider-Man Doctor Octopus fight. And I'm going to read part of this just because I want you to remember that this was written, very long ago. 1989, or 1989, issue 89 of Amazing Spider-Man.
Wait, is it 89 or 90? That was 90.
It's 88 through 89. I think he dies.
He dies in 90.
90?
Yeah, he dies in 90.
Dies in 90.
Because there's a fight between Spider-Man and Doctor Octopus.
Yeah. Right. So at one point, he sees that the building fell on Captain Stacy. Says, "There's a doctor in the next building. This is the fastest way if I can get you there in time." And you see the crowd. It was Spider-Man's fault. He killed him, and now he's taking him away. They get to the top of the building. "Hang on, Captain. Hang on. I'll have you in there in seconds." "No, my boy, it's hopeless. I beg you, stop. Let me down. You must. I have to talk to you, and there's so little time." "What is it, Captain? I'm listening." "It's Gwen. After I'm gone, there'll be no one to look after her. No one, Peter, except you." And you see Spider-Man with thought balloon. "Peter, you call me Peter. Be good to her, son. Be good for her. She loves you so much. You know who I am. You must have always known. She never told. Why must it happen? Why? First of all, it's Uncle Ben those long years ago, and now the second best friend I've ever had. Rest easy, sir. I'll love Gwen and cherish her as long as I live. What if she ever learns that she died because of me?" Mm-hmm. Someone who accepted Peter and Spider-Man as one and the same. now dying, reinforcing that they cannot coexist for Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Stan Leibowitz writing in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, the death of Captain Gwen Stacy, another important, big thing in Peter's life. You know? So. Dpalm, did I lose you again?
No, I had to do something with the dog.
Okay, sorry. No, that's fine. I understand these dogs. Oh,
Rottweiler problem.
Right, Rottweiler problems. So, again, a lot of stuff happens between that and then, obviously the...
Six-Arm Saga, baby.
You said what now?
The Six-Arm Saga.
6 arms. I skipped over, I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
I mean, I get it, but I'm just saying.
He's able to go full. They go full sci-fi for a little bit there.
Hey, listen, you're right. It's not bad. I'm just saying, there's a lot there, but I'm not gonna lie. Because you know what it is. After the death of Captain Stacy, I had to rush to the death of Gwen Stacy just because I know
it's like I have to see what's next.
Because it's just because you gotta think. Okay, so again, I don't like I'm with you. All right, Gwen Stacy is the love of Peter Parker's life. Which, like you said, full stop. It's not, everybody else is just a pale imitation, compared to that. Yes, even MJ.
And I love MJ.
And, listen, I think they did the best they could with there. But then when you come to the idea, and this goes back to some of the problems with the 60s writing and 70s writing. I guess at this point it's probably the 80s. Is it the 80s by this point? No, it's still 70s.
No, nowhere near.
Yeah, we're still 70s. The reason why they decided to kill off Gwen Stacy because they felt like her character was stale, and MJ's was the one that was moving forward. And I'm like, you guys are the writers. Her story doesn't have to be stale.
Well, part of that's also like
I get it, and that's just the time. But
it made it, not even the times. And I love that. I hate that. That's kind of the retroactive where people landed on it. Like that's the accepted theory, but it was Lee was about to leave.
I wish I would just say that. Like I'm saying, this is what some people have said about the character. Like with and I'm like, just say that. Say that you wanted to end the arc.
They needed to make a splash. It was a new writer, Gary Conway. Like they had to make a big splash, and for what it's worth, and I know that people will argue, and you kind of did hear kind of the accepted idea is that this was kind of a early fridging of a character. Maybe, but man,
well, it works. Like this might
made. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think this is definitely a fridging of a character, but the thing about it is the way they fix it by what they do afterwards, because it becomes a huge part of the character and the lore and what they do with it, and they don't. The other thing too is they don't forget Gwen Stacy.
She is the specter over the rest of the series.
Right. And so, it is fridging, and I'm not happy that they did it and the reason behind why they did it, but I've also accepted it because...
It's a great book.
Right. Like, I'm not going to lie.
Spider-Man 121 is a masterpiece.
Look, when I went back and read it again today, right, and I'm reading, and I've read it before, but I'm reading there, but it's like that whole thing of, I think even later on, the Goblin even says to Peter, there's always been that debate of, well, not really a debate because we all know, was it the force of Peter stopping her with the webbing, or was it the fall that killed her? It was the web. It never should have been a debate. It never should have been a debate because when you look at that panel, it when Gwen Stacy's caught with the webbing, they put in the panel snap. Her neck snapped.
And that's the thing is
in that
there
panel.
Was never meant to be ambiguity.
Yeah, it's not meant to be. Like it is. He did it. That's where it came from. And like, and that's why I'm like, I can't believe this is that even turned into a debate that needed to be clarified later on. It's like it's in the panel. It says snap.
Also, I love that if you look at the panel itself, he says did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he thought he caught her, but it's honestly like, I did it. I just killed this girl.
Well, what's great about what's great about it the entire time is, Peter is, when he catches her, like you said, he's happy. He's like, oh well, yeah, save the day again. It's Peter, that's what I did. And no, you did not. Yeah, like I'm looking at it, like it literally, like right above her head, and you see the way her head is, and it says snap. Like, yeah, it's.
And then his only words in the panel are did it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm looking at it too.
Yeah, this is a great thing, and so we kind of jump to the part of this book. But what happens is, again,
Stacy died.
Yeah, the night when Stacy died. The lead to this is Harry, is been hospitalized because of drugs. And Norman Osborn has, he knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Norman has been, he's been under a lot of stress. His son is on drugs. He's blaming the friends he hangs around with, and Norman starts losing it again. And somehow Norman ends up back at the Goblin Workshop and realizes that what the real problem is? Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is Peter Parker. So he decides to track down Peter Parker, but unfortunately Peter's not home, but Gwen is. And that's how the Goblin gets Gwen, takes her to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, and that's history for you. That's history for you. And it plays an important part because there's several pieces of this that come out later. It involves when we go into the Clone Saga, and also and it took me a while to realize that this would happen, because at the end of 122, so in 122, Goblin and Peter fight for the last time. Should be the last time of this, and Norman is killed by his own glider. He sends a glider after Peter, and as Peter's talking to him, Peter gets out of the way, and the glider hits and basically impales Norman and dies. And you see this shadowy figure who has taken the when Norman is found, he doesn't have his costume on. You see this shadowy figure in the shadows, and he's taking the. You later find out that's Harry.
Before we get to the Harry of it all, I want to point to the epilogue in 122.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right. Part of it was that Conway liked Mary Jane more. And he uses the Gwen Stacy thing to really set up the relationship he always wanted. The epilogue is Mary Jane in the apartment waiting for someone, Peter or Harry, to come back. Mm-hmm. She sees the form of the man. She knows it's Pete. Hey, Pete, you heard about Gwen. I'm really torn up. Pete, you? Torn up? You made me laugh, Mary Jane. You wouldn't be sorry if your own mother died. What do you care about straights like me and Gwen? Go on, get out of here. I know how you hate sick beds. And believe me, I wouldn't want to spoil your fun. For a moment, she hesitates by the door, and then it shows her closing it and staying there with him. And it's what they were able to do here is not just Conway, but Stanley as well, kind of planted the seeds. But so often in superhero books, the supporting cast is static. Jimmy Olsen's Superman's best friend. Perry White's the editor. Lois Lane's the reporter he's in love with or feuding with or loves Superman. Whatever. One of those many archetypes. Mm-hmm. The creative, the supporting cast around Spider-Man, around Peter Parker, continue to change and grow with him.
Right.
Because his accusations on Mary Jane at that point were on point.
Yeah. She was a supermodel, just basically above it all. And I guess that's another reason why, again, call it what it is, the fridging of Gwen Stacy doesn't bother me, because it becomes a growing moment not just for the main male character. It becomes a growing moment for all the characters around. Like
the entire cast.
Yeah, like MJ grows too. She becomes a better person and a better written character after this. Go ahead.
If you enjoy thinking about Gwen Stacy in this relationship, or you found the character resonates with you, I would recommend everyone read. I don't think I didn't put it on this list. It's called Spider-Man Blue. It's Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and it's Valentine's Day, and Spider-Man says he's feeling blue, so he starts talking to a tape recorder about he and Gwen falling in love. And it's 6-issue miniseries. It's on Marvel Unlimited, and it's heartbreaking. And it's beautiful. Like it's. Have you ever read it?
No, but I've heard about it. I've heard good things.
So like, it's the most romantic comic I've ever read. Like it's him talking to his dead love of his life. And they go through it all. They go through all the highlights. Everything we covered here, anything we didn't cover, the minutiae relationship is covered in that 6 issues.
Well, and the thing too, you got to remember, and you kind of go into that. The reason why Peter chose Gwen over Mary Jane is he felt like Mary MJ was too shallow. And remember, Gwen Stacy, and this is one thing I did like, why I love what they did with the Amazing Spider-Man series, the movies. They made her just she's also into science, and so they have a bond there that he didn't have with MJ. He just didn't have a connection with MJ, and that's why he fell in love and had Gwen. So yeah, again, I love Gwen. That's why I'm glad.
And that's why I even push back on the fridging. Like I guess technically, if you go letter of the law, this was a fridging. But what the fridgings have occurred, what's happened since, is everyone else trying to nail that impact of this moment.
Exactly.
Everything else is a pale imitation. Because hey, guess what? In 2015 and 2017, wow, I just lost what year it was. If a major comic killed off the major villain and the love interest in 2 months, the place would go nuts.
Well, and that's another thing too to point off with this is they killed off both. So you're right. Like we're calling it fridging because I guess that's the technical term for this. I guess possibly, but I don't necessarily feel like this is 100% wrong in that case. Like what they did, literally.
If you look at the Killing Joke,
yeah,
that's a fridging because Barbara Gordon's paralysis is only used as an investigative tool for the relationship between Batman and the Joker.
Well, the actual fridging that happened with Kyle's girlfriend.
Exactly.
It literally.
This resonated, and you know why it resonated? Because it was able to encapsulate why Peter's a hero. Because if I know you mentioned that the goblins impaled his own glider, but before that, he's got the goblin beat.
He thinks about killing him.
He's won. He could kill him. And think about it right now. If you are that person in that mask, and this man killed the love of your life,
wouldn't be me.
You got your hands on him.
Yo, so we just talked about we talked about the button on Super Tuesday recap. And we were talking about Batman. There's that issue is after the button. It's the issue 23, I think, with him and Swamp Thing, and they're trying to find basically the person who's killed Swamp Thing's father, right? And what happens with that is you basically see like you see what would happen with somebody who has power to kill somebody who maybe not even love, but just like that was family.
He mattered to me.
Yeah, he mattered to me. You don't. This is what I'm going to do to you, right? So you can see what would happen to somebody who doesn't have to think about that kind of stuff, right? Peter does, and he makes a conscious decision not to do it. One, because not only
that's why Spider-Man's a hero, man.
Yeah. It's done really well. And you're right. We can't call this a fridging because again, the more and more I think about it, it's something that, like you said, resonates with Spider-Man throughout. Kyle literally gets another girlfriend.
Another Gwen clone in the Amazing Spider-Man books like 6 months ago.
Yeah. It's just like, if do we even remember? Here's the thing. Is there a fridging? We don't remember Kyle's girlfriend's name.
It's Alex DeWitt. Stop it. I mean, I'm me, but still.
But I'm just saying. It's just what the fuck. I mean, yeah. Like I said, this is something that I think mattered and was important. So, let's see. Did I have
after 121? We get like the slow burn. Peter in college. Conway's doing this thing where he's setting up lots of different plot lines, kind of doing a proto Claremont type of deal.
Yeah,
I think the Jackal first appearance. Doc Ock marries Aunt May. which I'd always forgotten happened this early.
Does the Jackal appear in the same issue as the Punisher? I know he's in the same issue, but is that his first appearance too?
Issue.
So 129, first appearance of the Jackal, first appearance of the Punisher. You don't know who the Jackal is, and you just know he's somebody who's for some reason just got this thing about going after Parker. Going after Spider-Man. 144. Yeah, so I guess I read I think the entire arc is 139 to 150. Well, 144 is when everything really comes together. So
when they bring back Gwen Stacy, and if you think it's a trope now, it was fucking surprising in 1973.
Well, it got everybody. It got Peter. Like, it makes Aunt May faint. Cause it is the thing I like about it is it goes beyond just. And I guess that's why everything they did with Gwen Stacy mattered. It went beyond just Peter seeing her. When Aunt May sees her and goes crazy, and then Mary Jane's aunt sees her too.
Aunt Anna, yeah.
Aunt Anna sees her. It's like she's waiting in your room. And Peter gets pissed. Because that can't be Gwen Stacy. She's dead. Yeah.
And they pull it off. Like it's not shock writing. It's something you didn't think was an option.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I don't see it as shock writing at all. I think it was done really well. And the reason why it's done really well is because it's a slow burn. And like I said, we're starting at, you start at 44, but in order to get the real burn on this, start with 139. Because you get small things here and there. There's a couple times when Peter thinks he sees her, but you don't know who he's seeing. He just goes, "Wait, did I just see? No, I can't." And he goes up and it goes about a regular story. Like it's done so subtly. It's this long burn storytelling that you just don't. I don't think you normally see in this time period. And yeah, done really well.
But it culminates with Spider-Man facing down the Jackal, turned out to be their college professor, Miles Warren, who developed an unhealthy obsession with Gwen Stacy.
Who I believe you also meet in issue 31. So when when his first appearance as Miles Warren is in 31, this is the professor that Peter's always going to and asking for time off, and who goes to Peter's like, "Hey, your grades are slipping." That professor.
118 issues later. We get the fight that would change Spider-Man lore forever. When Miles reveals he's also cloned Peter. The two Spider-Men fight in a smokestack, a bomb goes off, and one spider emerges. At the time, Jerry Conway's quoted as saying, "The ambiguity was unintentional, as he took it as a given Marvel would never replace the star of Amazing Spider-Man with a clone."
Right. I love that. It's like I didn't think.
Who's like, why would I clear that up?
Like I didn't think I could do that.
It's for me. It's kind of like we'll talk about the Clone Saga eventually, and I'm gonna get in trouble because I love it. I'm sorry. I make no apologies even. I love the Clone Saga. Ben Reilly's suit is still the best Spider I've ever seen. Anyway.
Hey, look, I can't fault you for that, but I'm just saying.
But it's what we've talked about Marvel doing before. They don't make up new continuity out of whole cloth. They say, where are the holes in the continuity that we've already established? Wait, no one ever saw Bucky's body when that bomb went off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Winter Soldier, what's up? Wait. What do you mean you don't know which spider came out of the smokestack? Well, how would we know? Well, there were two in there, yeah, and one called out. But it's ours. How do you know? He's a clone with the same memories.
And that was the thing that was so great about 149 is, you have these two Spider-Man. So basically, these two Spider-Man have to fight, and only the real. They say that only the real Spider-Man. Because who is it? Is it MJ or somebody? They have somebody. Somebody's like tied up and it's like it's gonna die, but only the real Spider-Man can be the one that stops this. I think it's Aunt May, and only the real Spider-Man. So both Spider-Men are gonna fight to see who's the real Spider-Man. Miles Warren snaps to and realizes that this is wrong. He's the one that ends up saving Aunt May, but the explosion buries one of the Spider-Men, and you're never really answered which one was real. You just aren't. That's what happens in 150, where you basically get And that's what I think is funny is when Conway says he never meant it for it to be ambiguous. In 150, you literally have an entire issue of the Peter Parker you have trying to figure out how he can tell that he's the real Peter Parker.
It's brilliant.
And he comes to the conclusion that Mary Jane took me so long to finally realize she's the one that I care for. Professor Warren's clone might remember the same thing, but my thinking of it now is pure emotional response. So clearly, one, the clone couldn't have most emotional responses are learned from outside stimuli. That means Professor Warren in the clone's case, and Warren was motivated by insane jealousy from when Gwen and I were in love. And I'm like, that's all sounds good and well. I don't buy that logic one bit, but okay.
You dirty, filthy clone.
Right. I don't buy the bullshit you're selling right there, Peter clone. But okay, if that's what you want to tell yourself, then fine. But
so he convinced himself. He's like, I can't be the clone.
Right. I'm like, oh, and that's what it sounds like to me. It's like I'm reading this going, this sounds like you're trying to convince yourself that you're not a clone. But that's exactly what somebody who is a clone would do.
Clone would say.
Yeah, that's exactly what a clone would say. So I don't know about that one, sir. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I'm never get Spider-Man Blue after this. God.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's kind of where we ended. We ended right there, at 150. But yeah, you get a lot of growing up with Peter at this point. And like I said, I think these are some of the oldest books we've read. I say next to the Doom stuff, and I put this above the
Doom
Doom
stuff. Some of the Snap Wilson stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess.
But you're right. No, like early Black Panther. But you're right. By and large, this is for a guy who had his own book the entire time.
Yeah, I mean it's 150 issues. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, it's shockingly consistent. What they put Peter through, and you got to remind yourself that he is a kid. And you know what? Reading this stuff just made me more excited for Spider-Man: Homecoming because he's a kid. Like, what are you putting this kid through, man? Stop the fight! Like, again, the panel with and we kind of talked about it in what was it 33. Where he we talked about the earlier stuff, and when he's literally lifting up, he's trying to make it back to Aunt May to make it back to Dr. Connors to give him this isotope that he can have that has a cure for Aunt May. And Peter is exhausted. He's just fought Doctor Octopus. He's trapped in this underground lair. He's trapped under all this stuff. He literally finds the strength to lift it up off of himself. Then he has to go through and he has to literally fight through the leftovers of Dr. Octopus's men. And he's barely able to stand. And you just see the strength of a superhero for him to make it through this and make it all the way back. And do all this to save his aunt. Like, it's just the definition of a hero. And what goes on here. And they write the hell out of that stuff, man. So, yeah. So, there you guys have it. That is Peter Parker Part 1, unless Dpalm has anything else he wants to add into this one.
I just want to say, the next two are going to be rough because I'm going to talk a lot. And thank you all for coming down this road with us. Spider-Man is going to clearly be my favorite hero of all time. And we're going to get to Eddie. We're going to get to the clone parents. We're going to get to the clone saga itself, and I'm going to have to dominate that conversation because I refuse, Chris, to let you just be a one-sided bashing of the clone saga.
Look, man. Look, I downloaded it all. I'm going to try to read through a bunch of, the problem, here's the problem with me. It's not even that, I will necessarily think it's bad. It's just that at some point what happened with Spider-Man is what happened with Batman over at DC is they realized that, hey, you know what? Why don't we just have everything Spider-Man? Let's just make 10 Spider-Man books.
You're right. So next time, do you want to go through the next Clone Saga, or do you want to go through Kraven's Last Hunt? Because I think Kraven's Last Hunt could honestly like obviously like we should do a comic book club on Kraven's Last Hunt, by the way.
We should, and I know we covered it a little bit when we did the Rogue War. So let's do. When is Kraven's Last Hunt? What year is that?
89.
That's after Eddie, or before?
Hold on.
Because maybe we should just stop at Eddie. Maybe we should stop at Venom. That's 266.
Well, he's wearing a cloth black suit in Kraven's Last Hunt. So Kraven's Last Hunt is 293, and Venom
is 266. I'm not 266. Not, the 300. Venom is 300 in Amazing Spider-Man.
So it's right. You want to go through Venom next time?
Yeah, let's go through Venom. Yeah, we can do that.
All right. It was 150, and then of course the Spectacular book and the other books they picked up.
Yeah, just another 150, and then technically it's more like because like you said, you got the Spectacular, you got Web of Spider. Yeah, so many.
Hey, real quick before we move too far on, before we get out of here, what's your favorite Spider-Man story of all time? You have one?
No, I don't really. I can't. Well,
Mine's Kraven.
Actually, so since we did it. Even though it's in the Spider-Man books, but it's not a Spider-Man story. I'm not gonna lie, man. Flowers for Rhino, man.
Yo,
that shit kind of gets me. Like that shit, like not more and more think about that, and then so that, and then you then that, and then the last Rhino run where Rhino comes back and destroys a new Rhino.
Yo,
like the Rhino isn't like. A major, he's a major villain, but not. He's like a henchman almost. But those two Rhino stories, they kind of get me, man. They, especially Flowers of Rhino, man.
Kraven's Last Hunt kind of guy.
But that's good too. Don't get me wrong. Kraven's Last Hunt is really great. That's a good one. Like again, so when we did that whole, and again, I know I'm getting to the newer stuff, but. The stuff we did that long run we did in Rogue Wars where he basically goes to a bunch of so you had Shed with the lizard, like that whole thing with the different like that one. I think does that all lead up to Superior?
Yes,
I think that all does. Yeah, so that entire all those little villain runs they do before going into Superior, man, they were all just some of them were. You know what it is? They were all kind of gut wrenching.
Yeah,
they all just kind of hit you. You're just like, damn, man, you just wanted to, you try to give it up, but they just keep pulling you back in, man. It's just, whoo, yeah. We're gonna have some fun doing this one, man. It's probably gonna be 4.
Yeah, as I'm looking at it, it's looking like 4.
Yeah, because I mean, we're doing another 150 right now, and yeah, it's gonna be 4.
And we're not putting a dent in the sub.
Yeah, we're not.
It's like 1989.
Right. It's just like, yo, are we out of the 80s yet? No, we're not out of the 80s.
Not quite.
No. So it'll be fun. We'll be back. That'll probably be. Well, we'll see. We'll play out when we're gonna do this. I know we're also trying to work on we're gonna try to look into an interview for some people to come on and talk about some of this stuff as well. So yeah, stay tuned, guys, and listen to us. And again. Hit us up, Character Corner, on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, and get us there. Also, check out the Super Tuesday recap.
It's got to be Chris Lynn interview because I'm just going to nerd. I'm going to fan out.
We got Super Tuesday recap. Again, we just did one on Batman and the Button. That's probably coming out before this anyway. So go ahead and make sure, if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen to that. That's also a really great time. If you're not reading Tom King's Batman, you need to be reading Tom King's Batman. I know Dpalm's going to have a unanimous decision solo coming out this weekend because this weekend is obviously, well, depending on when this comes out, this weekend is NegroCon, so there's not going to be any Sandy Check or anything else like that. So that's what we're doing all this recording right now. It's like 11 o'clock on a fucking Wednesday night, and the reason why I'm recording this now is because we're not going to record anything this weekend because I'm going to be blessed out of my fucking mind after the show. So, yeah, just stay tuned, guys. We got a lot of stuff on Premium, too, coming out. I think I just put up it's a dual episode because, the ladies, the MTR Amazons, they did their spoiler review for Wonder Woman, and then we did ours. Me and Dpalm did ours, and that's on the Premium feed. And I know there's like at least 3 new episodes of Molecules and shit I need to put out. So the science team has been working overtime with that. So, yeah, there's a lot. All that to say, there's a lot of shit on the MTR network, folks. Check it out. And check out the website, too, mtrnetwork.net. Also, store.mtrnetwork.net. that has all of our shirts and things like that. So check those out. I just saw your stuff shipped today finally. Like some of the shirts take forever for them to fulfill, but they finally did. So, all right, folks, time to get out of here. Thank you guys very much. Until next time, we're out of here. Peace.